Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle, and today we're going to work on one of the reels that I just plain don't like. I don't know if you've ever run into one of those types of reels, but this one has just been a bugaboo for me, and the two or three that I've serviced, I've just never been happy with why they came in, and I just don't like the reel. And it's personal. It has nothing to do with the reel, I'm sure. Well, maybe it has something to do with the reel. But I've lost faith in this particular model, and for whatever reason, it might be a beautiful reel. It may work very well, but the one or two that I've had in just have not held up. But we'll take this one apart. This is an Ambassador, Abu Ambassador. It's the Kalex, C-A-L-E-X 51, which means it's a left-handed drive reel. It's got a gear ratio of 5.9 to 1. And overall, this one seems to be doing what it should be doing, and it was sent in by Matt. So Matt, if I offended your reel, I apologize for that. But every now and then you just get one of those things, just sticks with you, and it says, you know, I just don't like the reel, period. Now, this is an Ambassador. It's not made in Sweden. It's a Chinese-made version of the reel, and I have no problem if that's the only thing that you want to hold against it is it's not made in Sweden. But as I mentioned, for whatever reasons, these things just have been problematic, and they've been weird problems. The one of them just had a line guide that just wouldn't track evenly, and there was excessive play in it, back and forth, even with the bar. And well, that's just the way it goes. All right, we're going to take the external pieces and parts off of this. If you happen to own one of these and have a different experience with that, certainly leave it in the comment section. And I don't need any reinforcements about my feelings on the reel, but again, maybe I just had one or two reels that came in that all just weren't up to standard. So we're going to take the parts off. We started with the handle and the handle nut and the handle cap. Took all of that off. This is a left-handed reel, so everything is going to run backwards in terms of removing the pieces and parts. So you're going to turn this one clockwise to take it off. And if you're servicing these left-handed reels, that's probably the biggest thing that you need to remember is its mirror image. So if you don't pull the schematic for the particular reel, well, just remember everything's kind of going in reverse. So other than that, we're getting started here. I want to encourage you to subscribe to my channel if you like reel repair as a hobby or just as a do-it-yourself, or maybe you just want to work on your own reel. This will show you how it's done. I use step-by-step processes to kind of take the reel apart, show you where the critical service points are and how to put it back together. So we have a star adjuster here. You'll notice there's a little ring inside with a couple of bent up tabs. That's your noisemaker. And then you have a ridged washer that makes the noise when those two little tabs rub up against it. And I like to take them off and kind of nest them right back into the star adjuster in the way that they came out, so that I know when I go to reinstall, well, that's how they go. There's two bent washers. They're tension washers that give you flexibility or variability in the way that that star adjuster tightens down on the assembly to make the drag work. And then the rest is on the interior of the case. We're going to start by taking the 3 cover screws off. These are the ones that hold the cover to the case. We'll just back those off. These generally nest inside the case. They don't come out all the way, so don't try and pull them out all the way. If they do come out all the way, just mark the location of where they came out, because in this case I believe this one would be longer than the other one because it's coming through a thicker part of the case. With those 3 out, we should be able to remove the case. And here's one of the things that just kind of bothers me about the reel. It's the materials. So in the past, if you open up an Abu, even in the present, most of these have a metal bridge plate. This one has a plastic bridge plate. And just knowing the torque and the way that the twists and turns of reels go, well, plastic is not going to be as dependable to me as metal. Also, just looking right now, here's your free spool release, and that's plastic. And most of the times with these reels, you're going to find that the Swedish made ones and the earlier versions, that's a metal trip lever there. And this is one of the ones that actually was one of those bugaboos that happened in one of the ones that I had earlier. This little tab here on the free spool release broke off. So there was no way to release the mechanism inside. We'll show you that mechanism in a little bit. Okay, we're going to take the spool out. There's nothing on the other side. Notice again, what do we got there? We have a plastic side plate inside this metal case here. You have a drive gear in there. We'll take this off to show you that, and also to service that piece. And again, I'm not saying anything terrible about the reel that anybody doesn't know, but what I guess I'm doing with you is just telling you to expect to get what you pay for in these reels. And if you're seeking an Ambassador, well, my recommendation wouldn't be to seek this one out. The design is steady enough, but there's just a couple of failure points that I've had in the past that, well, they just bother me, and I guess they should bother anybody who's likes the Ambassador models, because these just aren't as dependable in my mind as they have been. Here's your inside. So we've got some sand or some grit in there. That's always a reason why you want to pull the side plate here. You want to get that off. That can clog. You can see the dirt and grease in there. That can clog the gearing. That can cause an issue with performance, and when you're tuning up a reel, you want to make sure that those performance issues go away. All right, that inside is clean. There's still some residual here. My guess is what has happened here is that the greases from greasing this idler gear has thrown off onto the plastic. And well, that's just it. It's just plastic. I would tell you that there's a positive side to plastic, and that is it's not going to corrode. The negative side is, well, flexibility. We have an idler gear here that drives a worm gear. These are the two pieces inside. You can see the brass worm gear, you can see the idler gear, and there's a secondary gear on the other side of this. Now, I'm not going to remove that. You don't need to during the general service. I am going to oil behind it, and I don't grease plastic or Teflon gears because they're self-oiling or self-lubricating. Oiling is the wrong word. While I have it open, I'm going to take the pawl cap off. I don't want to put those screws too far away. I don't want to knock them off my counter. For most of the stuff that I remove, I put into a parts tray. Easy enough. I use the bottom of a fast food container as the parts tray. You can use the magnetic versions. You can use the ones made for automobile shops and the like. You don't have to use anything in particular, but use it just as a repository for all of your pieces. All right, well, I take these pawls out because, well, grease accumulates on the shoulders here. You may not be able to see it in this particular video here, but there is grease on both wings. And if you want this to operate smoothly, well, you got to get that dirt and grease out of there. So look at the shoulder. And then when you're doing the service on this, check the wings, the two forks. Make sure that they are even and that they're not worn. In this case, we're okay with that. This is a little tight working conditions for getting this back in, so I use pliers. My hands are a little too big to just kind of try and set it in with my fingers. So I just use the pliers and a couple of attempts, and we'll get that back in there. We'll be able to oil it and move on. Just like that. And now that's proud. That's not riding in the worm gear yet, so hold the pressure on it, turn the wheel, and you will eventually line that up. When it comes down like that, you're perfectly lined. Now you can put your cap back on. Whoops, let's put a little oil in there. That was a whoops. A little oil in there. Oil the track. That track is clean. If it wasn't clean, you could take a paper towel or something else. You could run it over that track as you turn the wheel. And that would enable you to work that back. Again, these are pretty tight working conditions here for my large fingers, but okay, just finished tightening that up. Turn it, make sure it's working properly, which it is, and we can go ahead and put this back side plate on again. The Ambassador side of that will be facing up, align the 3 screws, and then put those screws in. So if I have a complaint about this reel, it's the quality of the materials in the reel. And I've just seen things that, well, just to me are not the quality that I would expect out of an Ambassador. And it's the predominance of these plastic parts. I just think they could do better, but there you go. I'm sure that there was a reason why they did this, probably an economy move to introduce an Ambassador reel that could be sold for a few dollars less. But I don't know. I don't work with the brand, so that's kind of hard to say. All right, last one of these goes in. And those of you that know me know they don't always go in easy. All right, that side's done. Let's turn our attention to the spool. Even here on the spool, even the spool break, the piece is completely plastic. All right, the bearing gets oiled on this side. There's a bearing on this side that gets oiled. The spool is clean, so we can leave it as it is. We're going to take that and we're just going to insert that into the cavity for the spool. When we do that, we want to make sure that we put some grease onto the stem of the spool, or the spool shaft on that side. All right, let's go underneath now. We'll take a look and clean up the internals of this one. And I think if we've seen anything at the moment, the reel is in pretty good condition, lacking lubrication. So when I did a quick test on this one, everything was working. That's always good. And the problem that we had with it was that dried oil on that side anyway. We'll see what's going on this side. I think it's probably going to be the same thing. And we'll show you how the inside of this one is made. If you have any questions on this reel or any reel in particular, if you leave them in the comment section, I will try to answer those for you. And that includes while you're working on a reel and I'm stuck somewhere, I will try to get you unstuck. All right, the 2 screws come out. You can remove the plate then. You should be able to remove the plate. There you go. And underneath, as I saw earlier, lots of plastic, including the bridge plate. Take these screws out immediately. Screws, I said screws, springs. I don't know why all my life I've been calling them screws. All right, underneath here we have a anti-reverse clutch. You don't need to do anything to service that other than make sure it's clean. We're going to remove the gear stack, the stack behind it, and this is your trip mechanism. I wanted to get to that to show you. So this little tab right there is the trip mechanism. You're going to have the release come up through here. It's going to pull it down. It's going to engage into this click ratchet. Take that off for now. And when you fire it, it's going to push it back up, just like that. You do not need to remove this mechanism unless you have something broken in there. But you do need to clean it. So I'm going to use a penetrating oil just to kind of loosen it up. I'm not seeing anything in here that even says that there's any accumulated dirt and grease and the like. But do that. And then I'm going to pull this because I'm not sure. It doesn't appear that we have a bearing under there. And there doesn't appear to be any way to remove that. Usually there's a C-clip there, so I'm just going to leave that as it is. I'll go ahead and put that click ratchet back. This is a good place to tell you to take pictures along the way. You can misinstall this by putting it that way as opposed to this way. Take a picture before you start pulling pieces and parts off. That way you'll have a reference point if something goes amiss. All right. This is our pinion gear, or spool gear sometimes it's called. We want to clean out the channel on the yoke. That's the piece in my hand right now. And when you do that, if you've forgotten which side goes where, well, back to your pictures, but there's a ramp here that's at a 45 that faces inward. And on your pinion gear, you want to inspect all the teeth. You want to make sure that there's no accumulation of debris or broken chipped teeth, and everything's uniform. And when you get that done, go ahead and put some fishing reel grease on there. From time to time I get asked what fishing reel grease I use. I use Penn Precision Reel Grease. But I just recommend that you use fishing reel grease. It really doesn't matter to me which one you use. Reinstall your gear, bring that over the top of the 2 studs where we took the springs off of. Make sure it's nested. You can see that there's the ramp on both sides here. Make sure it's nested, and then we're kind of done with that side. Next up then is that big washer that sits over the top of that, and actually it goes the other way. There's a little ramp on that faces down. Here's your first of your drag washers. That one sits on top. These drag washers do not require lubrication. You can, but you do not need to. And do the same thing here with the main gear. So I think what I found is exactly what I thought I was going to find, a very dry reel, just because that's kind of the way it felt when I was doing the testing. It felt like the lubrication and the like had just kind of evaporated. Not finding the dirt or any reference to that, so I don't know just how much was on this reel when it left the factory. All right, it's all clean. You want to mesh your main gear with your pinion gear. All right, next up then, we want one of these washers with the big hole in the middle of it. That goes next. You can't use this one. It's not going to fit over the ridge of your main gear. Next up then is there's a bell washer in there. Then we get the second one of the wide washers. Then we get the eared washer. And now you go back to that wide washer again, and then the bell washer up top. So that's the only way you're going to have them properly set when you go to do this. Well, there's one more piece that didn't come out of this that's required for this service. So we're going to push the anti-reverse collar through. We're going to clean that up. Make sure that all of the grease is removed from that collar. The anti-reverse is a friction-driven mechanism. If you get grease on it, well, it's just not going to work as well as it should. So go into your anti-reverse clutch. I use a Q-tip to do that, or a cotton swab. This one actually happens to be a Q-tip. And we want to clean out any grease that may be in there before installing these springs and the side case. So we put the 2 springs on, and now we can go back and we can reload the side plate. When I do this, I like to, well, let's put the side plate on first and then I'll show you what I was going to do. All right, side plate goes on. Line these up with the 2 holes in the side here. Those are going to accept the screws, and I go to my parts tray for those screws. See if you can get them started by hand and then tighten them down. So I think if you've stayed this far into this, you already know why I don't like the reel. But overall, let's talk some of the positives about the reel. It is an Abu reel. Parts are available for it. It will fit certain needs. It all depends on how you're fishing this reel. But if you're inshore or bay fishing, if you're kind of light tackling it, if you're economy minded, all those are positives for a particular reel because it fits a certain price point in use. If this is your everyday reel where you're on the bottom fishing a lot and doing a lot of drop fishing and casting and the like, probably not your reel. You're probably going to find out that something breaks along the line, and that's probably because, well, the materials. All right, the 2 tension washers went on, the click ratchet went on, the clicker itself, those tags are on the back end of this. Remember that this is a left-handed reel, so when you go to install your star adjuster, you're going to turn it towards you as opposed to away from you. And if you start spinning that post at this point, just hold it. If your hands can't hold it, go ahead and put the handle on for a moment. But you are going to have to come back, take the handle off, because this little tension washer here belongs on the top of the post. And our handle comes next. And there's a nut. Remember, everything on the left-hand side is always going reverse. So this is a reverse thread. It's going to tighten by turning towards you. Then that's a 10mm nut. And then our nut cap. Generally speaking, if you tighten your nut and this is a perpendicular to the hole, your nut cap will line right up, just like that. It's not magic, it's knowledge. And we can put this back on. So Matt sent me a bunch of these Ambassadors and left-hand cranking reels. Left-hand reels, well, to me, I'm kind of fond of them, because when you cast the reel, you don't have to change the pole in your hand if you happen to be right-handed. A lot of folks don't like that. And, well, what do they say? To each their own. All right, I'm going to pull this down now. I was going to do this before, but I'm going to grab that bar and set. And make sure that it's functioning properly. Now, when you go to set your side plate, you need to make sure that the screw goes in the hole and that the bar from the free spool is in that little indentation on that mechanism I showed you before. Once you do that, go ahead and bring the screws hand tighten. And then we'll just tighten it down completely. We'll check, make sure everything's working right. And we will see if we were successful in how to take this reel apart, service it, get it back out there fishing again. Tighten those down with your screwdriver. All right, so tighten, let's check the free spool. You push down on the button. Yep, I heard that lock. Spin your spool. That's spinning nicely. You have an adjuster over here if you need to tighten or loosen the spool. Yep, good enough. Turn our handle, make sure that this clicks back. It does. Well, that's feeling a whole lot smoother than it was before with the lack of lubrication. And the only thing I'm looking at here that I probably missed was a drop of oil on this guide post on the top here. Don't put grease on there. Grease is going to get trapped and hold the dirt. Just use the oils. So that's it. I don't know. That's my opinion of the reel. This is the Kalex 51 Abu Ambassadeur reel. As I mentioned, not my favorite, but maybe you have different experiences with the reel, and if you do, that's great. If you don't, well, maybe that's two of us that are not happy with the particular design of this reel. All right, so I hope you've enjoyed that. If you did, please like it. If you want to see more, again, please subscribe. If you do subscribe, please use the notification button so that you can see the other reels that I work on and the videos that I post. If you're a first responder or essential personnel, thank you for all it is that you've been doing to keep us safe during the pandemic. And to everybody, good luck fishing. Please stay safe and stay well. And keep watching. This is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Have a great day.